I took notes. I made one fatal error. My notes are on the phone I'm recording with. So that is not going to work. So let's see if I can remember.
We're the only ones here then, it's pretty low pressure.
Is Justin coming back? There we go. Thank you. Who here wants to make video games? Nice. It's an art. It's the kind of thing that I think you're going to do regardless. I wanted to start by thanking the con organizers and everyone, not just the top two. And now I understand why everybody starts out with thanking the con organizers, because it's an amazing experience. This is my first time with the table and talking to people, so you're all going to be very special to me and be in my dreams probably for a long time. That's right. I started in Atlanta, going to, I already told Justin, hanging out at the Titans Gaming Comics and enjoying the idea of that we can do this on a tabletop. And I was very lucky to be there right in the end of the 80s, at the start of the 90s when Photoshop happened. There's a whole conversation we can have about Photoshop and AI. And saw Howard Warshaw, the Atari ET guy, on television when I was 8, and just decided that's what I want to do. And was just very lucky to be in the right place at the right time, but a lot of it was that I had found out that Andrew Greenberg over at Holistic Designs and Georgia Game Developers Association, which something you probably want to check out. They got a webpage. They do events at Georgia Tech and some other places. And they made one of my favorite games of all time. And they had just finished making a Warhammer game, which is a terrible hobby. A good Warhammer saved my life. It was there for a difficult time when I was in high school, and it was there for me during COVID. I had promised my dad that I would give up Warhammer when I went into art school and get serious. So I did architecture, buildings, illustration, saw Photoshop has an undo button, and decided that that's the way to go. But I called Andrew because I made a contact, and I just called him up about once a week. We would just chat. And then one day he gave me a solid lead, and for a company up in DC that was making video games. And I was able to quit the really horrible job that I was doing as an artist. That was a very uncomfortable environment. And that's the introduction part. Building immersive worlds. Let's see if I can remember all three. And then not just for games, but also for D&D. What does it mean? It's that part where the player forgets where they are, and they have become immersed. William Gibson called this area cyberspace back in the 60s, 70s, when he was talking about where do you exist when you're talking to like your loved one on the telephone. They're in another country, you're over here. Where are you? Where's your mind, soul at? And he called that cyberspace. So when, it's not transcendence, that term, but when the player transcends into the environment and believes it. Three C's. And the first one is consistency. When you go into one room to another, the gravity's the same. Your gun will work the same. The player can rely on these certain rules and won't be surprised, won't be shocked. That's why video game bugs are so funny when things like that break. If the player doesn't believe in the consistency of the world, they just won't believe it. They won't get into it, and it will get a little boring after a while. I could name a few. Consequence. It's important, and DMs know this. It's important when a player does something that the world reacts, that things happen, even as simple as a footstep. And I don't know who that person is, did that really minimalistic game, but the footsteps are just, I'm sorry, I forgot the name of it. But consequences. If, in some games you cannot kill a chicken because the cows will get angry and come after you. Which is also, if it's consistent, then, the player can maybe get into that, believe that, but you never kick a chicken in the game. Even if it's hidden. Consistency, consequences, and constraint. That the players have a world that they can believe in, that's consistent. They jump on that rock, and their jump distance is going to be the same to the next rock. And that if they fall, they're going to plummet downwards, and maybe have to start all over again, or maybe get lucky, or maybe learn a new trick. And I think that the last of the 3 C's for world building is that it's important to embrace constraint, that the players should not be able to do everything, and not be able to just instantly go anywhere. Fast travel is nice though, and it has a place, and a lot of games nobody would play if you could at least quick journey back to where you've been. If the player can do everything, then nothing really matters. And it might be fun, and it is fun to, God mode, and shoot everybody, jump through walls, fly. But after 5 minutes or so, it gets boring. So constraint, letting the players know that what they can do, that the world that they are going to interact with is going to interact with them, even as simple as falling in a pit. If you fall into a trap pit, you should fall at the same speed. Things that because otherwise it'll be jarring. It'll bring them out of that sense of disbelievement. I covered thanking the organizers and who I was, and good ways to get into the field is starting with game jams and game modding. A friend in art school figured out that we could change the art, the character art, in the old SSI, Eye of the Beholder dungeon crawler games. And that was amazing, because all of a sudden we had 10 people. We're all doing pixel art. It's never really considered it. But it was great to understand how games are made by breaking them apart. And FAFO is an important skill for building worlds, because you can find an interesting new mechanic. You can come up with some very strange ideas, like John Varley's Centaurs, which was bad because nobody reads those books anymore. And they were tough to get through, but I was in high school. I forgive my hubris and inexperience in wanting to record instead of looking at my notes. I think I hit the main points. I am learning from all the wonderful people that I've been around here. I'm dressed in MIB. I'm an MIB guy. But if I had the sunglasses on, I wouldn't be able to read my notes. Why is it important? You have to let the player feel like they are free to play. Free to, when they're in an environment where they feel it's safe to let go and suspend their disbelief. Very, very much like at the conventions, especially for the conventions are one of the few places where I feel like I don't have to mask continuously all the time to fit into the borders of other people's expectations, because often breaking those borders is what is going to give our players that wow moment. So it's important to let them feel like they can play, even if they're being hunted by dinosaurs or a sniper. They should feel free that they're not going to hurt themselves in the real world from the experience. Or you have to respect the player, even though you want them to hurt, you want them to suffer. If you can make the player cry, that's good storytelling. And then I was going to wing the last part because I'm supposed to do this for 45 minutes. But are there any questions?
You said you worked for a company that Andrew went into a company in Washington.
That's right.
Not related to any of the Faded Sons stuff that he was doing at the time?
No. And I can't remember. I think they were working on Fading Sons, Faded Sons at the time, so he couldn't talk to me about it. But it was a role-playing system, and it still exists. His last, new release, that Noble Armada, was really, really wonderful.